So the second thing I want you to see is this idea that idols are a substitute for life. Because in some ways these things are related, right? Our loves are what we think will actually bring us life. Where do we find life? Where's true life? Now, of course, like I said, John does this weaving together of these themes, and so we've seen some of this stuff this fall together. But there's this this question really is at the heart of 1 John 2. Where do you find life? And what do you make of Jesus and all this kind of thing? Of course, the common thought at the time of John, and probably what he was writing to in sort of Western Asia Minor, Western modern Turkey, which, by the way, I actually looked this up this week. That is on the exact same latitude as we are. It's kind of wild. John was writing in Turkey. It's the same latitude as southern Pennsylvania, the city of Ephesus. Anyway, he's writing to this people that had this idea that the good of life is what you think or what you know. It's the spiritual side, the unseen, and the physical and the things you touch and taste and smell, and all that is to be discarded. True life is not found in any physical way. And of course, this had some implications. One of the implications is in some ways it doesn't really matter what you do with your body, whether for good or for ill. Go to the brothel, go to the prostitute place that's just outside of the temple. Use your body however you want to use it. But of course, it also had to do with how you engage with God. And this was a common idea right here at the time of John's teaching, which is the end of the first century. And that's that Jesus couldn't possibly have taken on real flesh, died a real life, because God, if he's perfect, if he's actually one who's giving real life, doesn't do that. Because real life isn't found in the physical. God can't do that. God doesn't enter our life. Which is to say this maybe, Jesus can be a good moral teacher, but he can't be God. He can maybe speak to our minds, but Jesus in the flesh, there's no way that can happen. Again, listen to John. Let's start in verse 6. We'll read to verse 9. This is the one who came by water and the blood, Jesus Christ, not by the water only, but by the water and the blood. And the Spirit is the one who testifies, because the Spirit is the truth. For there are three that testify, the Spirit and the water and the blood, and these three agree. If we receive the testimony of men, the testimony of God is greater. For this is the testimony of God that he has borne concerning his Son. Now, I said that I wouldn't get into any of the questions of this text too much today, but don't you just kind of go like, what? Water, blood, water and blood, water, blood, and Spirit? Well, of course, the water is a reference to Jesus' baptism. Jesus comes and he's baptized by the Father, where he associates fully with the plight of humankind. And there, the Father's voice from heaven speaks as the Spirit descends as a dove and says, "This is my Son in whom I am well pleased." But maybe at that point, if you're this kind of person that says, real life is not found in the physical, you might say, but the Spirit's there and the Father, and maybe this is just some God thing, but he's just sort of a figment of our imagination. There's this idea of docetism that was around at the time, and that's from the Greek word dokeo, which means to seem. It's only seemingly so. Maybe it was some figment of our imagination that was going on. But then he says, and it's the water and the blood. And we're like, wait. Jesus, you have to confess that Jesus came and was baptized and died and shed real life blood? I don't know about this. And of course, he then goes on to say, and the Spirit, because the Spirit always testifies to this reality that Jesus comes in the flesh. What John is saying is that you want life, if you want real life, you have to buy into this idea that there is only one true God, and this true God takes on flesh, lives among us, dies for us, is resurrected for us, and gives us his very Spirit, the Spirit of the living God. There is no life outside of this reality. You see, I think what you could maybe do is you could break down these God substitutes. You could say the love substitutes, or maybe the secular substitutes, the substitutes outside of the idea of God. Maybe the things that we love just in this world that we devote ourselves to, And we think that they can exist and give us fulfillment outside of the reality of God. If I only have that new car or that new job or that new wife or some other kids, please, or whatever it is, right? And you think if I have this physical thing, then I'm going to be fulfilled. My desire will be met. And John says to that sort of secular idea, keep yourself from idols. Don't buy that. But then here he's kind of speaking to the religious folk. I've mentioned throughout this series that there's these false teachers that have arisen, right? And this is what they're teaching. You can have Jesus as a good moral teacher, but God doesn't come in the flesh. And we've explored how that kind of thinking, where that takes us. But he's correcting this religious idol in a way, which is to say it's not just focused on the things that we can grab, but on how we desire to make God into our image and to think, if I have this kind of God, I'll have life. It'll be all right. John says, don't buy any of that. If you want real love, something that really actually does satisfy you, go to the Lord. If you want to find out what real life is, life that affirms this world and this creation, its beauty and its brokenness at the same time, God taking on the flesh and saying, yes, I desire to make this creation lovely, and dying because he must actually deal with this reality of sin. If you want real life, honest life, true life, don't buy the substitutes. Keep yourself from idols. I think this is why he goes on in verses 11 and 12 and says this. And this is the testimony that God gave us eternal life. And this life is in his Son. Whoever has the Son has life. Whoever doesn't have the Son of God does not have life. He's getting out what you are desiring. What do you want? You want your love to be fulfilled. You want your life to have meaning and something true and honest about it. He says you find that in Jesus alone.